So today we're going to be taking a look at how to work with transparent backgrounds, how to turn a subject that has a white background or complicated background, separate that subject from the background itself so we have a transparent image or an image that we can apply background colors into to make it stand out. So for the example for today, I'm going to bring up two images. The first image that we take a look at, we're going to be using the quick selection tool. We learned the quick selection tool in Photoshop, but just for a reminder, we're going to show you how to use the quick selection tool. And then the second image is the image that everyone else is going to do. And I'll walk you through step by step to understand a different tool, the polygon lasso tool, which we've used in the past as well. So I'm going to select the image. And now I'm going to look to cut out the subject using the quick selection tool. To get to the quick selection tool, it is the fourth icon on the left side navigation. If I click and hold, you will likely see the object selection first. You need to click and hold so we see the quick selection tool. With the quick selection tool, if I click and drag inside of the subject, it's going to do a great job of recognizing where the subject ends and the background ends. So with the area of the subject selected, I need to invert my selection. To invert my selection, I'm going to go to select at the top navigation. And the third option under select is inverse. When I click inverse, it's going to select the white area around the subject's head. And to make sure that I get it right, I can hit delete on my keyboard. And you see it turns to gray and white boxes. That represents a transparent background. To better see what we're working with, I'm going to do Control D to deselect. And I'm going to add a new layer in which we see layer 1 over on the right side navigation. I'm going to fill this in with a color. And my color right now, my foreground is red. So if I go to edit and fill, I can use my foreground color, click OK. See, it all fills in with red. Then I'm going to move layer 1 underneath the background image. And we see the red sitting behind the subject because it is a transparent area around her head. The tricky part is that the quick selection tool wasn't perfect. If we take a look to the outside edge of her head, it is a very complicated area. We still have white areas. We would have to go back in with the eraser tool to clean up some edges. Over on the left side, I can choose out that eraser tool. And then going in to try cleaning it up, make sure you have the subject's layer selected. And then I could eliminate out those little white patches that I don't want. So that works great when you have a simple background. And hopefully you follow the instructions for the assignment to take photos of yourself with a plain or blank background, so it's not necessarily complicated to Photoshop. But if you have more complicated backgrounds, we have to use the polygon lasso tool to draw around the subject, which takes a little bit more time, but can still be just as accurate, if not better. So I'm going to eliminate out this red background from this image, and we see that transparent image again. If I were to go to save this, I'm going to go to File, at the top left corner. I'm going to go down to Export As, and choose PNG. It's important you choose PNG because that will maintain the transparent area around her head. So I want to click on PNG. I'm going to click OK on the pop-up, save for web. And now if I open up this image, we see that this subject has this dark gray area around her head, representing that that's a transparent area. Again, this isn't the cleanest edge. You can see how we still have choppy areas where the quick selection tool went into the hair. But it does a pretty good job overall of recognizing where the subject is. For the second image, we're going to be taking a look at how we can draw around. I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm going to choose Practicing Transparent BG Background. And we have a more complicated image. I'll cut out the bottom so we're not necessarily dealing with so much area. I can go to the crop tool, cut down some area, just focus on him. And you'll only have to do this much. But there's still some areas that are going to be a little bit tricky. and we'll walk you through. So I can zoom in. I can hit Control plus sign to zoom in around the subject. And then over on the left side navigation, we have, again, the move tool with the first tool. The third option, you're going to see lasso select. And we want to click and hold to get the polygon lasso tool. The polygon lasso tool will be clicking point by point to draw a line around the subject. So I'm going to click on the polygon lasso tool. And I would recommend getting a little bit closer. I'm going to start down towards the bottom left side of my subject. With the polygon lasso tool, I'm going to click point by point. It's a little bit hard to see the line unless I move over a different area, going over top of his arm. But again, click point by point. You're just drawing around the edge of the arm. You can go a little bit longer lines when it comes into straight areas. When it comes into a curve, you need to use smaller points to draw around the edge. But we see this background with a Comic-Con logo all over the background. Unfortunately, that is very complicated, and the quick selection tool will not do a good job of recognizing the area. I know this can be tedious. I know you don't necessarily want to be doing this just for the purpose of the subject, but take your time, go through, make it as accurate as possible. It's going to be a little bit tricky around the hair area. Make sure to get inside little gaps. Just do your best to go around the edge. For those that are more comfortable with the polygon lasso tool, you can go ahead. We've done this prior when coloring out an image. Does not absolutely have to be perfect. There's a lot of hairs that you may not necessarily get, but just do your best overall. Take your time. Let's make this as clean as possible. Again, if we did try using the quick selection tool, you'd end up with a lot of areas that are selecting inside the background logos. It would just be a more tedious process, and you'd be left with a lot of open spaces that you'd have to go back and erase. If you prefer that way, that's fine. It's all about what the end result looks like. Make sure you are cutting out all the areas that are unnecessary. As I get down to the bottom, I'm going to go outside of the actual area. I'm actually going to go right over to where we started, all the way to the other side of the arm. When I get there, the object closes up. I can invert my selection. We see that dotted line appearing towards the bottom area. I'm going to go up to select, inverse, and then I can hit backspace or delete. Cutting out that background. And the one area that we have to still fix is the areas in between his arm, leaving that transparent image as well. Now the next area that we want to get is inside of the arms to make that a transparent area as well. We don't want to leave those white background areas. So if we do put a color behind, or if we are working with other images, we can have those gaps to make it look more realistic. So I'm going to go again with the polygon lasso tool in between the arms. Click a point. Do your best to be as accurate as possible. If you ever mess up, you can always hit delete. It will undo the last point you made. Then I can go back, make it a little bit more accurate. Once I have the area selected, I don't have to inverse anything. All I have to do is hit delete. It'll cut out that area, and then I'm going to move over to the other arm. Then connect back to where I started. You'll see the dotted line appear, and then again finally hitting delete. Again, it leaves that open space in between the arm. And now we have our subject separated from that background. If I wanted to put a color inside the background, I could add a layer again. I'm going to deselect just so make sure I don't have any areas selected randomly. You just have to hit Control D to deselect. Then I'm going to edit, fill. Again, I'm using a red background just for an example. And click OK. I'm going to slide layer 1 underneath. And we see now how much better the subject looks overall. I just have a little bit of edges that I could have cleaned up a little bit. I could always go back in with the eraser tool just to get those edges, but I'm pretty satisfied with what I have. So that red gave me a good example of what it looks like. So I don't need this red layer anymore. We're going to save this as a PNG file. You're going to be submitting the PNG file of this image for today. So I'm going to go to File, down to Export As, click on PNG. Once we hit Save, File gets saved to my computer. Just an example. Again, it's not necessarily perfect because I didn't get all the little areas of white around the edge, but it did a pretty good job of me clicking around the edges, and a lot cleaner than it would have been having used the quick selection tool. So please submit the PNG for today, and I will see you next class. Have a great day.